morning, guys. So, just looking at what's going on in Israel, and what's going on in, I guess, the Jewish world, and how people are reacting to everything that's happening, whether it's the conflict with Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, anti-Semites in America. It looks like after 2,000 years, it seems to me that we still have not learned our lesson. What do I mean by that? We seem to think that all of our problems will go away if we somehow just could figure out how to get rid of this, I would say, interesting or mysterious or I guess dubious, I don't know what word you want to use, of sentiment of anti-Semitism. If only we got rid of the concept, the very idea of anti-Semitism, all of our problems would go away. And if only we just show the world, hey, look at how much we're the victim. Look how everybody's attacking us. Look how, this guy is throwing a brick at some rabbi's face in Crown Heights, or look at how Hamas and Islamic Jihad are throwing rockets upon rockets upon rockets on us. Just look. We're showing the world. We have, ladies and gentlemen, I'm on the way right now to a meeting of certain people that are part of some Jewish organization, and they're going to be there to talk about anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. And there's so many organizations like this. They're one of many. And it's funny, I look at my Facebook feed and I look up and down, and it's like everybody's posting the same stuff. Literally, everybody's swimming in the same stream, everybody's posting the same stuff, the same content, the same, they're literally like mirroring each other. It's almost as if like it's just like an industry and they're trying to mirror each other. They're trying to sell you the same kind of product, basically. And by way of doing that, they're trying to get as many, likes and views and followers as possible. That's really what they're doing. They're trying to generate followers, right? So the more followers they have, then they put out content, what we say is the truth, and then the more people see it. Okay, that's their strategy. For example, the other day, people were posting that video of, the rocket landing on Route 4 in Israel, somewhere near Gan Yavne. I literally saw, I must have seen this video, from every different media source, or Jewish media source, ever. You're talking about Israel National News, Stand With Us, all these different organizations. They're all posting literally the same stuff. And they're posting the same stuff, and they think that this is going to get the world to be on our side, to love us, to empathize with us, to sympathize with us, and I'm just sitting there and I'm just like, what are you guys doing? And mind you, there are people who are giving a combined, collectively tens of millions of dollars to these different organizations for the purposes of just spinning these wheels, as it were. Just spinning the wheels and spinning. We've been spinning these wheels for a good 20 years. Basically since the first, I would say, at least since the second Intifada, definitely since the first Intifada. Definitely since the second Intifada. Let's say this is when all this stuff began, with basically the media being against Israel, is what you saw, right? So, with all these people, all these organizations, all these, let's call it Hasbara, we'll use the word Hasbara. Well, what all of these organizations don't seem to understand, and mind you, some of them are run or, led or paid for by Orthodox Jewish people. Or if you walk into any of their offices, you'll see half the staff is, people who are observant Jews. But what people don't really seem to understand is that everything we're experiencing right now, everything we're experiencing from the anti-Semitism to the, everything that's happening in Gaza, with how the media covers it, with how the media covers, let's say the Prime Minister when he talks about Iran, when he talks about Hezbollah, everything that we see, we're sitting here complaining about the UN, and we have this wonderful organization called UN Watch, and we're battling this, and we're battling that, and we're fighting this, and we don't understand that all of this is coming from a spiritual place. And if you tell me, well, I'm not religious, I don't believe, the only thing I can say to you is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter what you believe or don't believe, or what you are or what you're not. You have to understand that on a basic level, this is all coming from a spiritual place. All of our problems. And you may say, what? So we should all be Orthodox? What, like Orthodox people don't get attacked or killed or this or that? No, that's not the point. The point is we have to understand one basic premise. First of all, actually a few basic premises. Anti-Semitism as a sentiment is designed, was put into nature by God. It is embedded, even if you say there's no God or whatever, it's embedded in nature. If you look at our Torah, if you look at the story of Yaakov, Ishmael, of Yitzhak Yaakov and Esav and Yitzhak and Ishmael, you understand that anti-Semitism is embedded in nature. Period. You can physically fight anti-Semites. Yesterday was Reb Kohana's Yortzeit. He understood that. He said, listen, anti-Semites they're not going to go away. Anti-Semitism or manifestations of them will come in waves, but the actual sentiment of anti-Semitism is not something that will ever go away. So therefore, let's create some kind of, defense force, whatever, to at least physically defend ourselves from people who are against us. But the sentiment of anti-Semitism will not go away. So right now I'm going to an event called Battling Anti-Semitism and Battling Anti-Zionism. That's number one. That's first of all. Second of all, let's shift it over to Israel. The world, if we walk around, this is a big discussion, friends, but if we walk around calling ourselves the Jewish people and the light unto the nations, right? And so now we've returned to our land after 2,000 years. And it's a long discussion how it came to be that, the most anti-religious people, or some of the most let's say, not all of them were atheists, but a lot of them did a lot of sinister stuff against the religious community in our nation. And how is it that they're the ones that were chosen to come back and to recapture our land and to start our modern state, right? Okay, so we had this period of history, from I guess 1888 until basically like the 70s and 80s. I'll say, I guess the pinnacle of this history is when we got Jerusalem back in 1967. Hashem gave it back to us, in the form of like a war of self-defense. He literally gave it to us on a silver platter, pretty much. And as a friend of mine puts it, everything stopped. And now we're just going along this, Zionist, what I call Zionist path. And what we don't understand is that we're actually in a post-Zionist era, post-Zionism era. Secular Zionism is dead. I hate to use this word, but it is dead. Any one of you watching, guys, if you're part of any of these organizations that all seem to be doing the same thing over and over and over and over, and all you're doing is, you want Israel to keep the status quo, You want it just to be what is it called? As Ehud Barak called it, a jungle. I'm sorry, a high-tech startup in the, amongst the jungle, in the jungle that is the Middle East. If you want it to be Singapore, if you want it to be Hong Kong, listen, I hate to tell you, that's really not the purpose of the Jewish people. That's not the purpose of Israel. It's interesting that, a lot of people are up in arms of how is it that all these young people from Tel Aviv, these secular Jews in Tel Aviv are getting up and they're getting EU citizenship via their grandparents, and they're all moving back to, I don't know, they're all moving to Berlin because it's so hip and so cool. It makes you wonder, like, why would Jews move back to a place where, it's like, the last place you want to move back to is Berlin. And you talk to people, they say, oh, yeah, it's not the same, and it's Europe, and this. We know what's going on in Europe right now. I mean, if you guys think it's any different in Europe, you have Islamic fundamentalists, and then you have the backlash to that. You have the, what is it called? The, nationalism, and we all know what happens with European nationalism, which is slightly different from Jewish nationalism. Different conversation. So Jews are moving back, but you know what? It's not a surprise that Jews are moving back, because it's like, in their heart of hearts, in their neshama, they know that really, what's really the point of having a country? We just passed the Jewish state law resolution in the Knesset. We declare ourselves a Jewish state. Really? You're a Jewish state? You're a Jewish state where, I'm not even talking about being, again, I'm not talking about being Haredi or putting on a black hat. You're sitting in a country where you come up to the, any random person on the street, let's say in Tel Aviv, and you ask him what Shema Israel is, he has no clue. Like, what is the meaning of Shema Israel? Yeah, he said, I heard of Shema Israel, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. What is the meaning of this word? It's the most important word that, like, when a Jew's, I don't know, on an airplane that's going down into the mountains, or, I don't know, he's in the deepest, darkest prison and torture, it's the only thing he can say. He can say, Shema Israel, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Like, they don't even know what that is. Israelis don't know what Shema Israel is. Not all, but many, most. And we're walking around, we're calling ourselves a Jewish state. Forget about Shabbat, forget about Kashrut, forget about that. Like, just basic stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, basic stuff. So, here we are. We're sitting around, we have our nice little organizations, our nice little Hasbara, Israel advocacy organizations, and we're sitting and we're saying, oi, woe is me, how could it be? They're throwing bricks at us again. Please, New York Police Department, please, de Blasio, help us, help me. Please, UN, how can you pass? I just saw today from UN Watch, they showed like little flags. How many resolutions were passed against, you'll see like Venezuela, Cuba, North Korea, some other rogue states, and then you'll see Israel, and then you'll see like 00000, next to Israel it's 9, 000. We're sitting and complaining, please, UN, what's your problem? We're look at all the help people we help. We look at all, every time there's a hurricane and an earthquake somewhere in the world, we come, we're the first ones there. We're a startup nation, we built a microchip, we did medical technology, this, that, water, desalinization, water technology, blah, 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 to the high heavens. Friends, I have a friend, she has this famous phrase. When you tell her all the stuff that you're doing, and all the stuff that you're involved in, and all the stuff you've done, and all the, all your excuses, she has a very famous, very short phrase. 2 words. Nobody cares. This is my word to the Hasbarists, to the Israel advocacy people. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Period. Nobody cares that we're getting a brick thrown in our face. Nobody cares that we're getting literally feces thrown at us at the UN. Nobody cares that there's been rockets at our home since 2005, maybe before that. Rocks thrown, rockets, Molotov cocktails, bombs, AK-47s. Nobody cares. Okay? We have to help ourselves. We have to strengthen ourselves spiritually. We have to educate our children. Just with Torah. I'm not saying slap a black hand on anybody, grow payas and run around, I don't know, whatever, Mea Sharim, Bnei Brak, Judea and Samaria. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about for the Jewish people to come back to their Torah, to come back to Hashem, to understand who they are, to show the world unabashedly and without shame who they are, what's their culture, where they've come back to, that we've come back to Jerusalem, that we've come back to Judea and Samaria, the cradle of Jewish civilization, that we're not ashamed of that. You know, every year you go to AIPAC, you go to all these events, and we're ashamed. You know, we're still talking about this. The fact that the two-state solution is a conversation, and we have a prime minister who double talks. He says one thing to one group of people and another thing to another group of people, and he's just like keeping the status quo and keeping everything at bay. He's not talking from a position of strength and pride and just owning our stuff, owning our SHIT. Just let's own it. Hashem gave it to us on a silver platter, 1967. You know, we got Jerusalem back. Ladies and gentlemen, why do you think there was something called the Balaclava Movement? People who were secular coming back all of a sudden in that part of the world, in the late 60s, part of history, started coming back to the Torah. There was a Balaclava movement. You know, but they say for every person who went off the derech, there was one person that became Balaclava, who came back, right? And then you saw what happened in the world, you know, these revolutions and these, you know, the hippie movement and all this stuff. This is not like a coincidence. It's not an accident that all these things started happening as soon as the Jewish people got Jerusalem back. And all of a sudden, you know, as my friend Rabbi Glazer, Yom Tov Glazer says, you know, these holy hippies who were taking LSD, some rabbi came up to him, oh, have you heard about things beyond space and time? Yeah, I've been there. Okay, so we have it too. And all these hippies were like, okay, tell me more. You know, Hasidut, the Kabbalah, and all these things. And the Balaclava movement started. It's not an accident. And now we're sitting here, you know, 52 years later, and we're still talking about, oh, somebody's throwing a brick at my face, and somebody's passing resolutions. They passed a resolution that Zionism is racism in the 70s. If that wasn't a signal to you guys that, like, the UN is a garbage organization anyway, and the signal to you guys that, like, this stuff is never going to go away, no matter how much you fight it, how many symposiums, like today I'm going to the symposium. I'm really curious to hear what people have to say. Some of these people are Orthodox Jews, some of these people are secular. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching this, where you're going to go to this event today in Manhattan, I'm really curious to hear what you have to say. Oh, well, we're doing this work, and we set up a legal, you know, society and a legal fund to fight this, and Ilhan Omar, and Rashida Tlaib, and we have to fight these people, and we have to this, and we have to that. Like, just, you know, and here we are like, oh, we shouldn't let them into the country because it's going to be bad for Israel's PR, and la la la. You know what's bad for Israel's PR? The people who work in Israel PR.